All right, good morning. It is the 22nd of April 2024. This is a morning cafe. It's been such an eventful weekend.
Oh, yes.
So much happening as Kenya's marked the 3 days of national mourning from that tragedy last Thursday when a chopper went down, killing 10 officers, including the Chief of Defense Forces, Francis Ogola, who was buried yesterday. We'll be looking at all this because there's so many talking points, so much to discuss about what has happened over the weekend. So karibu sana, this is the morning cafe. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. How hot is a coffee where you are?
Was definitely, and I'm usually standing in Ringita. You're talking about a very busy weekend. For Manchester United fans, it was one of those weekends that you're celebrating, but you don't know why you're really celebrating. Oh yes, Manchester United won against Coventry through to the finals of the FA Cup. Then what a day to start this particular week. It's a Monday. We're discussing matters health. Stick around for that at 8 a.m. and also matters first aid at around 9 a.m. Ihoma yangu bado ijapona lakini
pole sana, acha nikae mbali na wewe. Unajua kuna floods. A quick look at the dailies this morning, and we start off with the Daily Nation. Yes, final send-off. It is still the biggest discussion points. What was said during the funeral and burial ceremony of the late Francis Ogola there. We do have an image of the president and the first lady laying a wreath at the gravesite there in Siaya. And yes, everyone is just talking about what was said. You look at Twitter, and for a moment there, for the last 3 days, we've forgotten about everything else that has been happening.
Oh yes, including the doctor's strike.
The doctor's strike, the floods that are there.
Oh yes.
And everyone is just talking about this. So that's the Daily Nation today. The Standard, the same.
Same, yes.
Ruto promises thorough probe to allay a suspicion. And yes, an image there of the president.
And it's the only story on the front page. You're talking about this on Friday.
There's no other highlight.
No other highlight.
No other piece of news has made it to the front page of the Standard this week.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Next to the Business Daily, dollar rally drives shilling to 5-day weakening streak. This was trending last week. Matters the dollar, just to see how things have been going on.
And it's good that the Business Daily has put it on the front page, because this is one of the pieces of news that is totally forgotten.
Buriani Generali, picha yake pale, picha za wikendi. Kwa tunaziangalia baadaye. Kwingineko, People Daily.
End of a journey, same story, and it's the only story. Okay, at least there's a mention of a capsized boat killing 6. I think that's from Baringo, but most of the page is dedicated to what happened yesterday at the funeral of the late Francis Ogola.
Still the same photos on this paper. This is the Star, but then they bring in a whole other conversation. So this is a big story. Senators plan to extend term limits. Okay,
it is a big conversation, and we'll be coming back to that. Let's take a look at the headlines across the border. In Uganda, something similar on the front page, but this is a totally different story. It has to do with Dr. Aliker Martin, and his burial happened yesterday in Uganda. He was one of President Museveni's main advisors. He's also served as a chancellor for a number of universities in Nairobi, in Uganda. He was being buried yesterday. But the front page of the Daily Monitor, and you may, if at all you would have blocked the title of the Daily, you would have just imagined you're in Kenya. Fresh fight erupts over Uganda telecom deal. These are issues that mirror exactly what happens in Kenya. Because they're talking about executives of a foreign firm owning majority stake in the revived Uganda Telecommunication Corporation Limited, who are expected in Uganda this week to resolve the delay in handing over to them management of the national optic fiber network. Exact same story with Kenya's Telecom.
Oh yes, another exact same story, Fred, is this one. Traders must pay taxes. Now, if you are just covered this and even covered Museveni, you'd probably also think you're in Kenya.
Yes. To be honest, between Kenya and Uganda, I think our issues are exact same. Taxes, issues of corruption.
Ni currency yetu at least iko
hapo tu pengine. Hapo tu. Oh, yes. Let's take a look at what's happening in Tanzania. Here's what ails state-owned banks. 3 state-owned banks, as the TIB Development, Tanzania Bank, and Tanzania Commercial Bank, are burdened by risky loans, capital inadequacies, plus other issues.
Though matters road infrastructure making big news on this story, and they say solution to endless road repairs.
And pictures there of flooding, which is very similar to what is happening in Kenya today.
Oh yes. Finally, gazeti la Mwananchi, miaka 90 maisha ya mzee Malechela. wanavyoitamka, iliyojaa heshima, lakini taarifa kuu pale, sheria chanzo cha matatizo. Swala ya kubadilisha na kugeuza sheria yao pale.
Okay. Manyanyaso kwa wafungwa magerezani. Well, that's what's big in terms of the dailies. And if you look at the top trends, yes.
Oh, yes.
Because this is where the discussions are, even as the main media focused on the funeral. South Sea, yes. And you know what? They're talking about flooding.
Oh, yes.
Flooding. And if you could only see some of the images that they're using, yes. Manu floods carried from South Sea to JKIA, afraid to leave the house when it rains. Okay, some of them are just jokes, but most of it,
then
at Indiokwende Mkate South Sea shops, and you have to use a boat. These are just some of the images on Twitter. Yes, scenes from floods, and this is different media covering. Yes, apparently this is South Sea.
Wow.
People just trying to navigate.
Okay.
And that's a top trend this morning.
Other trends, Rita Kibochi, Twitter DCI and just X DCI, just trying to,
back to the same conversation again.
Ogola, and we had forgotten about Macha's doctor strike.
Yes.
But let's take a look at traffic now.
Traffic, and yes, it looks. What time is it right now?
It is
so far so good. A bit of a
6
red.
minutes.
6 minutes past 6.
Yes.
I can see even from far a bit of red on Thika Road, which is one of the main tributaries into town.
Also,
and,
yes.
So let's try and see what's happening there.
Yesterday, Mombasa Road was one of those roads that was just...
Because of flooding?
Yes.
There's already a bit of red here, and this is around KCA University, past Garden City Mall coming towards town. There's a bit of a snarl up there. So yes, if you're using Thika Road towards town, just beware. There's something happening here. We are not sure what it is. It's around just before you get to that interchange from Outer Ring Road. So something is happening there between Garden City Mall and that Allsops area along Thika Road. It may mess up your travel to town. That's all we can report from Thika Road now. Kiambu Road is looking good from Kiambu town all the way past the bypass, DCI, and into Pangani. So nothing to report from that direction. Limuru Road as well is looking good all the way into town. The other main tributary is Waiyaki Way into town. Waiyaki Way into town past ABC. A bit of a snarl up here, a bit of red just before you get to Westlands, but after that it's New Way into town. Other roads, look at Ngong Road, and Ngong Road is looking nice all the way from Karen up to the Junction Mall and beyond, even past Prestige Plaza, all the way to the City Mortuary roundabout. It's looking okay so far. The other main tributary into town is Langata Road, and this is it. This is okay. Let me just see properly. Yes, Langata Road is also looking good. Let's take a look at Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road also looking nice, all the way from Kitengela past Mlolongo. A bit of a snarl up there, dots of red here and there at Kitengela. But after that, it's looking good all the way into town. This is Mlolongo past Cabanas, past the Gateway Mall, all the way into town. It's looking good. So far so good. But once you get to Emara or Lesereni, just there, I think it's when most people are leaving the expressway to try and use Southern Bypass. But after that, it's green all the way into town, so nothing much to report from there. Finally, Jogoo Road, normal, nothing abnormal there. Just a bit of dots of red and yellow after Makadara, and probably just as you get to the City Stadium roundabout. And so that's the traffic situation in Nairobi as at now. And I know things will be changing, and we'll be looking at that as we go along.
8 minutes past 6 a.m. Let's tell you also what and how the weather is looking like. And today we're going to be using the aid of the Kenya Meteorological Department, and just using this aid. So they had posted this, the whole outlook, since last week until today. So they say rainfall to persist across various regions with heavy downpours. This was witnessed yesterday largely, and they had an alert of the same. So in areas, if you're in Central Highlands, Western Kenya, Rift Valley, Southeastern Lowlands, Coast and Northeastern Kenya. Just to show you how that looks like. So let's click on this first one to see how the cumulative rainfall forecast will be, and those areas that they have highlighted. So from the shade, from the green shade that is a little faded, receiving lesser rainfall, and just looking, let's focus on this area that has between 20 to 50 millimeters, which has relatively okay, wow. Actually, even now, even getting into the
more concerned about
yes,
the higher rainfall,
the higher rainfall,
covers
yes,
areas like Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Kiambu, and
Nairobi, yes,
Kajiado as well. So a lot of rain to expected within this area.
Oh yes,
neighboring counties to the city,
as well as Mombasa, and some parts of Kisumu will be getting, actually now it is for the water bodies, as they say, and between 100 to 120 the yellow bits.
So meaning that the flooding situation will just simply persist.
Yes.
If at all this is a forecast for the next few days by the Met Department, then those living in Nairobi are already complaining about high rainfall. It will only get worse.
So 120 millimeters plus if you're living in, well, Nairobi and its metropolitan regions. When you take a look at, I think this should be somewhere around Kitengela as well, as we take a look at the traffic and Mombasa Road as well.
Are
yes.
affected as well.
Oh yes. And that is how things are looking like on that end, even as you cross over now to getting into the papers later. Let me tell you what is to be expected in our news diary. Two key highlights for today. We'll be briefing you later on. So first off today, the Ministry of Information will be hosting the Connected Africa Summit today at Uhuru Gardens. So the summit themed Shaping the Future of a Connected Africa will be graced by President William Ruto, his Gabon counterpart, Bryce Nguema, U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman, among other dignitaries. And back to the doctors' strike with the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, the Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratory Officers, as well as KMPDU, will be meeting with the clergy, including Archbishop Ole Sapit, Bishop Muheria, today from around 7 a.m. at Ufungamano House. I don't know if the prayers, maybe it is now time for prayers, but we'll be seeing and just telling you what to expect from this meeting by the union, medic unions, as well as the clergy. Stick around for that and all other stories for today. We'll get into the papers now.
Yes, we start off with the Daily Nation final send-off. That's a big story on the front page. The Daily Nation has reserved some space for a few more highlights on the side, but the main story is still about the burial of the Chief of Defense Forces, Francis Ogola, who was laid to rest yesterday at his home in Siaya. And images there of the President and First Lady laying a wreath at the gravesite. More images of the family and soldiers as they escorted the CDF to his final resting place. They say, "Fare thee well, General." Chief of Defense Forces was laid yesterday amid calls for a speedy and thorough probe into the cause of the helicopter crash that killed Kenya's foremost military officer, the country's first four-star general to die in office, who was mourned as a gallant general, humble and ethical man. And inside the Daily Nation, they've reserved quite some acres of space to this coverage, pages 2, 3, 4, and 5. And yes, if you open up the inside pages, more and more photos of the final journey of the General Francis Ogola, all the way from the airport and even the final funeral service before he was laid to rest. More photos on page 4 as well as including more stories about the others who died and are yet to be buried. Talk about Colonel Keitani, who was in high spirits on last visit home. He's among the 10 people who perished in that helicopter crash. At least that story is covered on page 5. And yes, many people have been talking about the fact that a lot of focus has been on the CDF, Francis Ogola.
Yeah.
Yet there were 10 of them who perished.
Yeah.
And some of them were buried on Friday.
Including
yes, especially those who from the Muslim faith.
Yeah.
And more will be buried this week. So we do expect even more coverage for that. And that's the front page of the Daily Nation. On the back page, Perez lays down the marker with record-breaking run in London. Yes. Two Kenyans yesterday won the men's and women's races at the London Marathon. And congratulations to Alexander Mutiso Munyao and Perez Jepchirchir, both of Kenya, who won the men's and women's races at the London Marathon yesterday, followed by some Ethiopians, Kenenisa Bekele in the men's marathon and Tigst Asefa in the women's marathon. And that's the Daily Nation this morning.
You're talking about how Kenyans are really talking about this, the whole Ogola, and I mean, it's quite trending, and they say Ruto promises thorough probe to allay suspicion that is on the Standard. And President pledges to make public the investigation report as Azimio leaders pile pressure for answers on the death of General Ogola and others in a country with unresolved high-profile matters. And this paper has also focused quite the acres from pages 2 all the way to page 7. And there are also different, it's a collage of photos here from the president just throwing the Mchanga pale chini, as well as the Kenya Defence Forces paying the last tributes, and just that the final salute being given. And this is the only story focused on this paper.
There's no other highlight on the
There's no other highlight, and there are also other collage, there are other photos on this from pages 2 all the way to 7. A quote there by the president: "There shall never be extrajudicial killings or political assassinations in Kenya under my watch."
And if you open page 2 and 3 of the Standard, it's just photos and more photos of the scenes yesterday, including a very interesting one with very many Boda Boda riders leading the cortege as it made its way to the home. And very many photos of those who attended the funeral yesterday in Siaya. And the coverage continues on page 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, the Standard has dedicated the first 7 pages.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the first 7 pages to coverage of the funeral yesterday. And if you just flip immediately after that, and you just see flood waters everywhere.
Oh yes. There's an interesting story though, because now other stories come from page 8. On page 8, just below there's an interesting story. They say Kikuyus, Luos and Luyas form majority of employees at KEMSA. And they have the percentage there. On page 9, destruction, injuries as heavy rains pound. Wow. And in case you're a maize farmer, they say farmers worried after unusual maize growth. Finally, on the back page, we've clapped for them, making us proud here. Jepchirchir breaks women-only world marathon record. The London Marathon yesterday. Kudos kwao, and thank you for making us proud. That is the Standard for you.
Let's take a look at matters business and the Kenya shilling. Dollar rally drives shilling to 5-day weakening streak. Before this tragedy, issues to do with the dollar and how it had a good rally against the shilling had a good rally against the dollar, and what that meant, including the reduction in fuel prices, had gotten Kenyans really excited. Now it appears things have not been very rosy for the local currency, especially over the last 5 days or so. And now we're seeing the dollar rallying back and driving the shilling to a 5-day weakening streak. The dollar has rebounded on fading hopes of US interest rate cuts. Shilling posts 5 consecutive losses after 20-day rally. So for those importers, kama uko umejipanga saa ile shilingi ilikuwa na uzito, chunga sana. Fresh battle for control rocks troubled Savannah Cement. That's the other story given prominence on the front page of the Business Daily. There's a fresh row erupting over the control of the troubled Savannah Cement's administration process, with the government now challenging the validity of the current caretaker amid an 18 billion shilling exposure for creditors. Interesting times. More highlights on the ticker. Power imports hit all-time high in 3 months to March. You know, we still import power from Ethiopia and Uganda. So electricity imports between January and March this year grew to an all-time high as the country turned to Ethiopia and Uganda, even as generation from the dams started picking up. And you don't understand sometimes. Right now they're talking about the dams filling up. There's too much water, but still our capacity to generate electricity is still not optimum. Coop Bank wealth management assets hit 218 billion shillings. That's the other highlight. And finally, Nairobi home prices dip as costly loans hurt demand. The growth of house sales prices in Nairobi slowed down in the first quarter of the year as a high cost of credit hit demand from home buyers. And that's the Business Daily.
Right, from Business Daily, let's take a look at Taifa Leo. Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo sema buriani generali wameka picha ya maafisa wa jeshi wakimsindikiza mwili wa mkuu wa majeshi Generali Francis Ogola. Sema kuwa viongozi kutoka Nyanza na Azimio wasisitiza uchunguzi wa kina ufanywe kubaini kilichosababisha ajali ya ndege hiyo. Pale chini, Huduma Center kujengwa kila eneo bunge. Wasema kuwa yafikiwa wabunge watatumia hazina ya CDF kujenga vituo maeneo yote 290. Swahili kidogo kinipige chenga pale. Masuala ya siasa, Kalonzo akosoa uendani wake kwa kumharibia. Asema kuwa mivutano ya wanasiasa katika ngome yake itavuruga hesabu zake za mwaka 2027. Masuala ya kampeni imeanza kuchacha mapema hii. Mwishowe, pale juu, badili mbinu za kukabili majangili. Asema kuwa chama cha NAT cha walimu hiyo chasema mbinu za sasa zinaathiri elimu bondeni. Kwenye michezo, Pep alia licha ya kutafuna Chelsea FA. Asema msongamano wa mechi nchini Uingereza unaumiza vijana wa Man City. Na baada ya mechi alikuwa kama mwenye amekasirika. Kinajua hasira hiyo yote itatuangukia sisi wa United.
Mutakipata. Mutakipata.
Kwingineko,
gazeti la People Daily, end of a journey. The main story there on the front page, and it occupies quite some huge space. And talk about fading away. President Ruto leads the nation to pay a grand farewell to General Francis Ogola, who died in a plane crash. Officers put their best foot forward, and it was very interesting just to see the military rights, them bidding farewell to their general, put their best foot forward for send-off as politicians demand probe into the death commander.
Plus even the facial expressions on these officers, even the different photos that were taken that day. And you see even this officers really touched and just sorrowful on that day.
Yes, and it is important to note that there will still be another memorial service later this week for the general, the Chief of Defense Forces, I think on the 26th of this month, which should be, I think, on Friday. So we do expect more scenes, probably the family sharing more about the general. And because, yes, it was a bit rushed, 72 hours since the death, so a lot of things had to happen within a very short time. So yes, there will be more, even beyond the 3 days of national mourning that ended yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Fine. The People Daily has left some space for at least one more story, which should have captured the attention of the country. Capsized boat kills 1, 6 are missing. And this was in Baringo over the weekend. A boat capsized and people are still missing. This is after some of the lakes are swollen now. And yes, something that we'll continue talking about. At least one person has been confirmed dead.
Can you allow your wife to spend a night out? And is it too early on a Monday to ask that
I think it's too early, but it's there on the front page of the People Daily. You can decide whether to answer that question or not.
All right. Kwenye gazeti la The Star, senators plan to extend term limits is one story that hasn't been focused on other dailies. And it is a conversation that we'll be having on the State of the Nation with the Monday panel this morning. And they say it is a new bill. President MPs MCAs and governors to get 7 years instead of 5. Are they doing enough with these 5 years instead?
And you know, it's interesting because some of this come as very salient suggestions.
And very subtle, by the way.
It's, by the way, he can stay for 25 years. Now there's another bill. Remember, the NADCO had even proposed at some point that senators should get 7 years, but then very quietly. Some were hidden. Then another senator comes up with a plan to extend term limits. And you know, you may ignore this discussion, but believe you me, palipo moshi
panamoto
pakosi moto, hii mambo itakuja kutokea.
And at first it was the presidents. Right now it has trickled down all to the MCAs. I don't know if also the Nairobi, rather the women reps are also involved in all this, but
well, they're part of members of parliament.
So yes, true, by the way, yes. So
you can't have two parliaments. So the only difference is I don't know if they're suggesting a single 7-year term or double possibility of 2 7-year terms.
Wow. But I mean, obviously, it has to be. But wait to see how this is going to be developing. That is just the main story. Other highlights, well, apart from the military honoring the fallen general, just below there's JKUAT student murder, where the police released pictures to help capture the suspect. And General Ogolla helicopter crash report will be public, is according to President William Ruto. And just below there, finally, tension as IBC rejects key NADCO proposals amid fear of clash with the political class. That is the start, and allows us to get into the cartoons this morning as we also analyze others. Let me also have People Daily loading. All right,
as that continues to load, we do have the cartoon on page 12 of the Standard. They talk about, yes, now this is a setup, where a funeral setup, very close to what we've been experiencing as a country over the last weekend. And the politician is there on the front. This looks very much like a funeral service in church with a casket lying there. And the politician is talking and addressing the congregation, saying, last week I talked to this great man lying here, and he even asked me to forgive him. And the congregation is just wondering, please stop lying. We've not talked for the last 1 year. No, it's not the congregation. It's actually the guy.
The guy.
The person, the departed, is actually saying,
because dead men have no tails.
Have no tails. Dead men tell no tales.
Tell no tales, yes.
On page 11 of the Daily Nation, it speaks of the flooding situation in Nairobi. And we have the governor. Mjamo tu. Governor ni mjamo.
On X and on social media, they coined
his old dimples and,
yes,
and very little else. And it's raining cats and dogs, and there's a slum there, and residents are actually standing on the roofs of their buildings because it's already flooded. The governor, with an umbrella, is standing on top of his fuel guzzler, and he's talking about high-rise building plans.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the contradiction.
I think the caricaturist should also have added a Uhuru nightclub. Yes.
In a club dimples. There's a cartoon on page 11 of the Daily Nation talks about the flooding situation and what the leadership of this county is doing towards remedying this. On one hand, a suggestion that you could have high-rise buildings as tall as 75 floors.
Oh yes, on People Daily, and even because I'm pretty sure even on the State of the Nation, going to be having, Philip Kisi. He was Nairobi County Clerk, just telling us,
yes,
what does it take to be running Nairobi County really? Yes. On People Daily on page 10, Stanos take a magnifying glass, taking a look at the helicopter that led to the death of 10 officers, including General Francis Ogolla on Thursday, and the commentator says we demand answers. There's a dark cloud there. Investigations, previous helicopter crashes report.
They are never made public because that's the question, because especially on issues around the military, probably because of the sensitivity of their work. A lot of these crashes happen. I'm sure there are investigations, but the reports from those investigations are rarely made public.
Though the president said it is going to be made public, so we have to see what is going to be made public and what is going to be made secret.
Well, he's made so many declarations that if you go on Twitter, everyone is asking him, so you've just said this. What about this? So, well, we just have to wait and see. we commend his commitment nonetheless.
Oh, yes.
All right, our panel will be in studio this morning. Do stand by for that. Samuel Pogisio, former ICT Cabinet Minister, Kipruto Rakirwa, former Agriculture Minister, Philip Kisia, former Town Clerk Nairobi, and Dr. Mumbingaru, former East Africa Legislative Assembly member. They'll be in studio. That's our power panel this morning. As we said earlier, it's been a very eventful weekend.
Oh, yes.
So much has been talked about, and we'll be looking at just how this will shape the country's discourse going forward. And you can be part of that conversation as well through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Yes, definitely. As we also, go on a short break, I've realized ni kama tumevaa uniform leo.
Siku hizi naona unafuata ima. But you're doing well, you're doing well.
Who is copying who?
Okay, for today I'll say I've been copying you. I like your fashion sense, and I'll be doing exactly as you do.
Thank you very much. Take a short break, we'll be right back.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field.
Oh yes, welcome back. This is Morning Cafe on TV47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. It's been such an eventful weekend as Kenya marked the 3 days of national mourning following Thursday's tragedy where a helicopter crashed in Sindar area at the border of West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet counties, killing 10 military officers, including the Chief of Defence Forces, who was laid to rest yesterday in Siaya. And events surrounding the final rites and the funeral have dominated discussions from Friday up until yesterday. And a quick look at the dailies, it is the only story on most of the front pages on the Daily Nation. I think only the London Marathon yesterday getting some space on the front page. Everything else is about the funeral. The Standard has no other story on the front page, not even one. It is just about what happened at the funeral service yesterday. The Standard goes ahead to dedicate the first 7 pages of the paper today to coverage of the funeral of Chief of Defence Forces Francis Ogola. And so that will be the main focus of this discussion. With my power panel this morning, let me start by introducing the Honorable Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, former Member of Parliament, East Africa Legislative Assembly. Karibu sana.
Asante, good morning.
Good morning. Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Agriculture Minister. Karibu sana.
It's my pleasure.
Philip Kisia, former Town Clerk Nairobi and also a leadership and governance expert. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Samuel Pogisio, a former Minister for ICT. Good morning, Karibu sana. I think apart from Bwana Kirwa, who we spoke on phone briefly on Friday, gave him a chance to actually commiserate with the rest of Kenyans. I think it is an opportune time to give you the same opportunity to condole with the families and commiserate with the rest of Kenyans following that tragedy. Yes, I know the funeral service or the funeral final rites for the CDF were conducted in a rather expedited fashion, but many others who lost their lives are yet to be buried. Those funeral rites will be conducted this week. So let's start with you, Dr. Ngaru.
Thank you, Fred. It has been a traumatizing weekend, and I take this opportunity to condole with the families of the late CDF and the other senior officers who lost their lives. To them and to their families and to Kenyans, it was something that was, just shocking and numbing. In my private moment, I had an opportunity to say a prayer, especially to the Luo nation. And I am not young, so I can count a few times when their finest, has had that kind of a tragedy. And, sometimes as Christians, we have to stand in the gap and pray. Even as we pray for the nation and for this particular time, a community, I really did ask God some questions. Speak to the Luo nation and confirm to them that they are really your children and they are rightfully so in this country. Speak to them. Because you are loving God, and confirm to them that you still care. And you will hold them at this very difficult time. And I remembered the Defense Forces and the serious accidents that have happened in that particular docket. I may not know them individually, but they are families. They are Kenyans. They are men and women who give their best to this country. And I asked God to give that Department of Security confidence that He still loves them. I was lost of words, and I am still lost of words, but I know that God is still in charge of this country.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bwana Kiro, I know you got an opportunity to do the same on Friday, but once more.
Yeah, thank you, Fred, for this opportunity. May I still condole with the families that lost their loved ones. And really, my recommendation as a nation is that we are not saying expedite the process of probe into the circumstances that caused the death of our 10 soldiers, including the CDF, just because of just mere suspicion. But let us get rid of any issues that might have bedeviled the Department of Defense to the extent that we had to lose a general in such a manner that perhaps something could have been done. And as they do the investigation, they should also allay fears because you've seen the social media has been flooded with all manner of speculations, and we don't want really to remain a country of speculators. We would want to get rid of any misgivings, any statements that might create a feeling that there was under activity in the death of the general plus 9 other soldiers. Finally, I just recommend also to the Department of Defense to look at ways of trying to reorganize the fleet that they have so that it meets the local standards and also international standards. Because from the report we are getting from the ground, we seem to feel that something could have been amiss with the chopper that the general used on his ill-fated trip to Rift Valley, and perhaps he expected to get back to Nairobi the same evening. So it is unfortunate, and the loss of lives is something huge to this country and the entire industry of road transport and even air transport. We just need to look at what can we do to reduce the fatalities that we face every other week on the roads.
Okay. Thank you, Bwana Kirwa. Kisia.
Thank you, Fred, and good morning to all of you. Let me join my colleagues in passing a message of condolences to the families who lost their loved ones. You'll allow me to mention them by name. Of course, we have the CDF, General Ogola, Brigadier Saidi, Colonel Kaitani, Major Magundo, Captain Mohammed, Captain Litali, very young men, Sergeant Muridhi, Sergeant Omondi, and another very young officer, Sergeant Nyawira. I think that was the darkest day in the history of our nation, because this was the first time in history that we are losing an officer at the level of a CDF while still in office. In fact, he was going to celebrate his first anniversary in the office, I think by end of this month. So it is a very dark moment in our history. Of course, a lot has been said. Therefore, I don't want to repeat, but I want to say something very little about Sergeant General Ogola. I didn't meet him personally. From the eulogies I've at least seen and I've been able to analyze, he appears to have been a man of humility. A man that was a family man, an avid golfer, top professional, well-trained, somebody who cared for the community, somebody who cared for the welfare of his soldiers, somebody who really wanted to leave an impact, not only on the community, but to our defense forces. So we've lost somebody who, if this had not happened, would have seen some significant changes within the defense forces. I think I can only equate General Ogola to General Tonje, who left an impact. And we keep on talking about the Tonje rules to date, although those in political power sometimes ignore these rules that were put together by General Tonje. And then, of course, there is something that we cannot ignore. You know, this position of CDF has been going around 3 communities. Yet we have about 46. The Kambas have had this thing. Kalenjins have had it several times. Kikuyus have had it several times. So this one was the first one from western part of Kenya to get it. And before even we could enjoy that office, the Almighty God decided to call him. And then, of course, a man of a difference. He brought in, I could see he was somebody who really wanted to open up that space and not to shroud the whole operation in secrecy. Of course, there are certain things that I must say that I observed during the funeral. And my son, who is a trained aviator in Florida, Embry, really cautioned me from the time this accident happened, who said, "You are not an engineer, Dad. What business do you have talking about an aircraft accident?" And I said, I'm a politician. I said, "Oh, it's not about politics, it's about engineering. So be careful with what you say." But allow me to say this, that first of all, where I come from, we do not dance on the grave of a dead person. We take that matter very seriously. Number two, we also accept the fact that the dead cannot speak back. So you cannot say things that put somebody who in a dead position to defend them, because they can't defend themselves. So you must be careful and cautious about what you say about this dead person. But there are things that were very profound that I saw during the internment of General Ogola. People seem to have forgotten that Ogola came from somewhere. Ogola still has a father who was there, who just turned 100 years. There was no reference to the late father, and I could see the father in a lot of pain. That old man was really grieving. Where we come from, and most of us, this is our culture, it is the children who bury the parents. Here you have the father who is 100, who turned 100, burying the son, who is not even 62. So I could see a lot of pain going through that, and I think those who are in charge of protocol, those who are given an opportunity to speak about General Ogola, made a big goof. We should have acknowledged that old man and grieved with him in pain. The other thing that I saw in ending is I saw a lot of fake things. I saw some fake eulogies. How can you eulogize somebody you just met for five minutes? I saw some fake speeches, which were not truthful. I saw some fake grins after the burial interment. I saw some fake hugs. I saw very many things that were fake. And this really, really, really affected me. Because I said, you cannot even pretend, you cannot take advantage over a situation like this one, to pretend that you are condoling with the family, to pretend that you are mourning with those people who are really going through pain, yet deep inside you. So my take here is that we need, as Kenyans, to start looking at ourselves from inside and be truthful and honest with what we do. Finally, on that matter, Fred, a lot of speculation, and I know we'll talk about it. Like my brother Kirwa said, there's a lot of speculation about what could have happened. A lot. Therefore, it is imperative that the government allows even international assistance in investigating this matter. We cannot just leave it to our own. We have confidence in our people. But with this matter, there's need to allow other partners to come in.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, colleagues. I think mine is straight away to take the opportunity to condole with the families of our fallen soldiers and the members of our military fraternity, whom we lost last Thursday to a grisly air crash. Particularly the loss of our CDF general. He's in his own class as general, General Francis Ogola, who apparently seems to have been a quintessential soldier, a proper, well-trained and well-articulated as a soldier. He was your And I saw some tweet where he was praised for keeping himself the way a soldier is supposed to keep himself and a general is supposed to keep himself. Most likely, as we all eulogize the fallen CDF, it's most likely that we will probably forget the other 10 or the other 9. But I want to remember them in their families, that we really pray for those people, because you cannot have a CDF without the support. And these are all people who probably be future CDFs. All of them aspire that way. But given the opportunity to say, pole sana to the families and friends and to the military fraternity for the loss. It was a very heavy loss. Unfortunately, the mention of West Pokot is always there. They say West Pokot, Marakwet, and the people of West Pokot would definitely have been there to even just mourn, because the general had been there and was about to do something big in one of their schools, to go and rehabilitate a school, the Cheptulel Boys Secondary School, which had been abandoned due to banditry. And so the whole aspect of honoring him, those of us who would like to see peace in the region, would then remember this day, the Thursday, that this happened, and remember it in a sense that it was meant to be a reconciliation, was meant to be a development agenda, and the good general had gone there and had interacted with the local people. So I think just to wish them, the family well, and to wish the family good speed as they recover from the shock and from the loss. But it's not only the family. You must remember that when you reach to that level of military ranking, you are at par. You are an international person. And that's why we saw a lot of CDFs from other countries coming, because you are now one of the top guys in the world in your rank. And so so we've lost some very, very, very important people. It was very sad that we might not have a good record or a good report on what really happened to that aircraft. But I think, apart from what we might get from the investigations, I believe that the manufacturer would want to know what went wrong with the aircraft. Okay. And I'm sure that the manufacturer will send a team to investigate. So what we might not get from our investigators, we'll probably get from the manufacturer.
And I want us to focus on that issue of the safety, integrity of the military equipment that we use. Yes, of course, the president has promised that a thorough probe. It is two-pronged, one to allay fears or speculation of foul play. But the other one is really to get to the crux of the matter, what really happened. Because this is not the first crash we've seen over the last 1 year. And if I could just go through the incidences. In November last year, a military helicopter on a relief food supply mission crashed in Wajir immediately after takeoff. That same month, 2 KDF pilots were hospitalized after another crash in Kesamis, Kajiado. In July earlier, another one crashed in Chimolingot in Baringo. And sometime back in 2021, back in Kajiado, another one crashed and 10 soldiers died. And these are just some of those I've listed. Quite a number of these aircrafts have had issues or incidences such as this, which have ended up in death, loss of life. And many people are questioning, then there's always a probe after. The investigation are usually conducted, but the results or the reports that come from these investigations are rarely made public. Understandably so, because it is military operation, and they may not really be open to allowing such kind of communication flow to the public. But then again, when it comes to such a situation that is so tragic and results in the death of a CDF, the expectation will be different this time round. The president has made a commitment, but do you think we'll actually get to be told exactly what happened?
Fred, I want to give the country hope as we wait. I may not be an expert, but I know the procurement division of anything defense is a closed shop. We have read, even from police choppers, you know it, that the equipments that come are obsolete on the other side from where they are purchased from. We have read those things. But what worries me is that it has continued. Those reports about those procurements that are open even in the many areas that touch procurement of hardware in the defense forces. We may not get it. Even with the manufacturer, we may just get what they think we need to know. About the president assuring, we have had those assurances. We've had backup personnel investigating such from the international community. We know what happened. And therefore, we have a reason as Kenyans to say, okay, we will wait and see. But I still go back to the CDF person. I think he stepped on some toes with the reforms that he intended to have in the defense forces. We don't know, they have not been disclosed what kind of reforms he aspired to have. I only pray that the issue of procurement of those such equipments, hardware, would have been an agenda having seen and listed the accidents that you have talked about. And not only those ones. You remember there was one that claimed a former minister, Godana. You know, and I can mention, it's not my field, but we know them.
The question therefore is it a legitimate expectation that we will actually get to be told everything that happened, especially given the fact that this is a military situation?
It has always been a military situation, but now the difference is with the CDF. The CDF was involved, and this is why I am taking you back to the reforms. Could he have stepped on some toes? But in him, I got to have hope for this country, that there are individuals who are still good. There are professionals in this country who mean well, and something will happen, a miracle, that such individuals who can balance professionalism, integrity, family, faith, take up all the sectors of this country, then Kenya will be different. Yeah.
Bwana Kirwa, if we look at Kenya's history and even beyond the military, even police choppers, and in the case of the accident that claimed the life of former Minister George Saitoti and his assistant Oro Ojode, there was even a commission of inquiry. There was a public inquiry into the issue because even the probe into that accident, I think the family was not really comfortable with. And yet even with that kind of initiative, we never really got to the end of the matter. Hence the difficulty with this one as well. Yes, there are very many calls for probe and expedited investigation, but the concern is, will we really get to a point where we're told this is exactly what happened, given the kind of history we had, especially with the security-related aircraft?
Yeah, Fred, the word security has been used in many cases to cover the reality. I remember in 1991, we went to Lamu, and there was an audit query under Public Investment Committee or Public Accounts Committee, which I was a member, that there was some dredging of Lamu port. And of course we went there, and because we are not experts, we were just taken and shown this is where the dredging was done. But realistically, some of these issues are not clearly demonstrated that this is how things were done, because we were not quantity surveyors, and therefore we were ill-equipped to come up with any serious recommendations to the effect that whether there was any impropriety or not. So my worry is that we seem to use security considerations to gloss over issues which are very serious. They are serious in the sense that fundamentally what we should be asking ourselves is that what is the kind of technology that we need to still be using in Kenya. Some of these machines, whether they're helicopters or whether they are planes, how old are they? When were they last purchased? And how regular are they being serviced? And is the service really, or is it just a service that I take my car to a petrol station, they just top up oil, and they tell me it is all okay? You remember there is this manners in Kenya, which I consider it bad manners, that when you go to service your car, later on you are given the so-called spare parts, the parts that have been removed from the car, ostensibly new ones have been put. But what we've known in the past is that at times, if it's an injector of a vehicle, they can get an injector from your car, they put in another person's car because your injector is still okay. Then they give you the old injector from the other car. And at the end of the day, you think, this is my injector, and they will have put a new one in your car, but your injector did not have a problem at all. So some of the servicing, does it meet the standards, or are they just servicing for the sake of procurement? Mheshimiwa Mumbi Ngaru has said some of the things are laden with corruption. So if corruption is one of the factors, it may be hard to come to terms with the reality. Of course, we hear there is something they call black box. Whether black box communicates details beyond the communication in the cockpit, and even the cries that people might have engaged in. Because I hear some of the bodies were removed when they were not yet dead, but they almost died immediately after they were removed from the furnace. And some of the people are talking. We would expect transparency for us to raise this matter. And we also expect, can we do a clean audit of the institution of defense,
From what you
so
saw,
that we have new, at least, can we improve the machinery?
From what you saw with how the issue, or the example I mentioned of the police chopper that went down with Professor George Saitoti and Oro Ojode, and how that matter was handled, including the probe, do you think that it can be any different, that any such probe would be different this time around?
We just hope so, because if there's nobody who has a dirty hand involved in this one, perhaps we don't know why Saitoti had to die. Was it a normal accident, or was he planned to die?
That's the question,
what
because even after the probe, we still don't have clarity on what really happened.
Yeah, it's not clear, and we hope this one was really accident, so that the clarity comes to the surface, and we're able to know, well, this was a normal accident, and what do we do about it? Because many probes, whether it is that one of Mboya, the late Ouko, Pio Kama Pinto, the late JM, all these things come to a note, because we only speculate much later that who could have killed JM, who could have killed so-and-so, how did so-and-so die?
Okay.
But as a country, we need to rise above that and be able to say, okay, this is not what we expect as a nation, because individuals are there, but tomorrow they will not be there. But Kenya will continue because it's a going concern.
Bwana Kisia, are we being naive as a nation in expecting that we will actually get to the bottom of this, given the history that we've had and the examples that I've laid here, that most of the time we rarely get to know the truth? Are we being naive in expecting that this time around things will be different?
Fred, unfortunately, I think you're right, that we seem to be naive that this time round things will be different from the past. This is not the first aircraft accident that we've had involving military equipment. My fears are that after a while, this story will die a natural death, like the other incidences have been left to pass. But you know, it will keep on denting our image, because remember, and that's why it's important to put this matter to rest. That you're not just dealing with a CDF who has passed on. You are dealing with a CDF who is coming from a region that perceives, to be always under attack by successive regimes. Secondly, the pronouncements that have been made by those who are taking over power about the late General Ogolla were extremely unfortunate, because this is the first time in the history of the Republic of Kenya that a discussion between a head of state and a senior military officer, both of them being members of the National Defense Council, being brought to public. There are some discussions that should never come to public. But because that space was opened up through the interview that was run by His Excellency the President, and he telling the public how he eventually allowed General Ogolla to take charge. I mean, it obviously will raise suspicion. It would appear to the ordinary person that there was some beef. But after certain considerations, he allowed the man to take over. So that suspicion and alone needs to be put to rest. But again, my colleagues have talked about the military equipment. The protocols given to any CDF are similar to the protocols given to the head of state. They are at par, okay? Because should anything happen to the head of state, the CDF really is quite crucial in the power dynamics. So if you look at the planning protocols of such an operation, it's highly spot on. My sister, Mheshimiwa Mumbi, talked about the equipment. I can tell you the Bell equipment, the chopper that he was riding, was bought about 6-7 years ago. It's one of the best that you can find on earth, manufactured by one of the best companies in the United States. So I doubt whether it was not mechanically sound. It must have been mechanically sound. Then, so we discount that one, that, maybe it wasn't mechanically sound, because it can be used anytime. Okay, it's on standby. If you're under attack, if the president needs to use it. So, I mean, we must discount that one. The issue of, the other possible cause would have been maybe the weather conditions. And I can tell you that that equipment is able to fly under very difficult weather conditions. But even beyond that, the coordination between, the control tower, maybe NIS, the Kenya Defense Forces, before takeoff, are normally seamless. So again, that one is discounted. The issue of, staff, because who was flying the equipment? I can tell you without fear of contradiction that the pilots we have in this country, particularly those who work for the Kenya Defense Forces, are highly trained personnel. So the possibility that this guy was not properly trained is discounted. So, and that's why I agree with Mheshimiwa Kirwa that there's need that this time round that thorough investigations are carried out and the government needs to allow other players to come in. We must allow international support on this particular matter. We can't say that we are adequate. We know we are adequate. We know we have people who can carry out investigation. But the mere fact that there is suspicion, they need to open up that space. Okay? Let them not close it. If they close it, it doesn't matter what report comes out. That question will still linger on our minds, that there must have been some human interference with that helicopter.
Okay. Bwana Pogisio, Bwana Kisia here mentioned something about just how high-ranking an officer the CDF is, probably only one step lower than the commander-in-chief. This is the same department that is charged with the transportation of the president. He uses the same military choppers. So when we see this kind of poor record in the safety and integrity of the military machines, questions will be asked. That is one. The other question is whether or not some of this military equipment is being misused by politicians. We've seen so many politicians jumping on military choppers for quick weekend trips, tours, political engagements. And one wonders, could that also be contributing the fact that you could just be stretching already strained resources? Kindly comment on that.
Well, first, let me just weigh in, first of all, on the fact that I have been chairman of the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and understand a little bit, not much, but a little bit, of these things called, aircraft or air traffic accidents or incidents. And we are based on what civil aviation is. And remember, there are two types of authorities here. There is the Kenya Civil Aviation. There is a civil aviation which is for civil aircrafts or civil, aircrafts. But then there is the state authority that is now the aircraft that don't belong to the civilians. These are the aircrafts which belong to the state. And that's what we're talking about. And sometimes the two are not connected at all. Depending on if a state organ wants to be subjected to civil aviation rules, then we have the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, which actually guides everybody on investigation. And the investigations based on something that's called Annex 13 of their rules is the broad international investigation charter or regulations that you can use. The reason I bring this up is because many times investigations on the state side are really, they are played by the state in a way that serves the state. They can choose to release what they choose to release. Sometimes it cannot be public for some reasons because of state nature and security nature. So when we ask, for example, and we all agree that it should be open and that we should be introduced to the public, the whole thing and so on, we are also not being very genuine because it is still subject of security things and things like that. So we have...
so there's no chance that we may actually get all the details from this?
It's a guarantee the president has given, and is the commander-in-chief. Hopefully, we will get that. Then we'll have the investigation, as I said earlier, based on the aircraft itself, the equipment itself. And an aircraft is made up of parts which don't come from the same manufacturer. The manufacturer can be one. But as you know, aircrafts, the engine is from another company, this other part is from this, and then they just put them together. And so each of those parts will want to know what really went wrong. And was it our part? Was it our and the whole purpose of investigating, apart from knowing the truth about what happened, is also to see how to avoid future accidents. It must be. This investigation. So what we are trying to say in this panel is, if this has been the product of previous investigations, does it mean that we've never learned our lessons from those incidents and accidents? Because those incidents and accidents should have recommended ways to avoid future accidents. Of course, accidents are accidents. You can never know what really happened. The local people at the scene who saw it would say we had a loud voice, for example. But what does that mean in terms of investigation? What did they hear? What really did they hear? So you have to find a way of making sure, if you promise people that it's going to be open, thorough, and the results will be made public, you better do it. Not because people are really anxious to hear what happened on that.
From your knowledge, do you think it was right for the president to promise that, given the fact that this is a military issue and the military has its own protocols of how it handles things? For the president to come out and say we will make everything public,
he is the president of the Republic of Kenya. He is the president. He is a commander-in-chief, and once he has promised, and then he's a politician. He's a politician, and so you see, you have to take all those things into consideration. So when he was he speaking as commander-in-chief or as a politician? And sometimes, now to come back to your issue of whether these aircrafts are misused by politicians, I don't know what you want me to say. And because we have seen it, we see. I have been a cabinet minister in a government. Mheshimiwa Kirwa has. And the joy riding in military aircraft was never part of our orientation. Actually, the accessing of the airbase alone, it was not supposed to be that easy. That politicians actually go to the airbase and just, as if, okay, the minister, yes, and the president, yeah, but now almost Tom, Dick, and even Harry is able to go there, jump onto an aircraft and fly away. This, if it is there, and we know it is there, should be discouraged by the system, by the president himself, because those are his friends and cronies. When people come to power for the first time, there is always excitement around it. And that excitement needs to be stemmed about just jumping on any government state aircraft. There are regulations and rules on who goes on some of those things and who gives permission for you to go into those things. So I do believe that it's now a lesson for those who keep jumping onto these things and free riding, that it is not always good to do that. There's a lot of that abuse. And generally, by the way, it's not just about the military. I have raised this matter. Why is it easy for government personnel, for government officers to hire choppers every weekend? Who is paying for these things? Why has it become so easy? I mean, you go home every weekend, you take a chopper, which is hired by a state, by the common person, because it's tax money. But it's become so easy. So while we are looking at misuse of whatever is military, it's also a misuse of our resources and the common man's tax to just be, but it's so easy. Somebody goes home 3 times, 4 times from one Arambe to another Arambes. And it never was supposed to be like that. Okay. Take commercial aircraft to Kisumu, take commercial aircraft to Eldoret, to Kitale. Nowadays, there's so many. And there's a government vehicle there. Go and use that, come back. It is important that we also secure, some of these people that we're using all the time. So my problem is not that we are misusing. My problem is actually more than that. Mm-hmm. It is our resources, and we complain, where is the money going in this country? And now we see who is using those monies and using it very badly.
Yes. Do you think that this kind of behavior may have contributed to the decay or deterioration of the quality, probably of service that Bonakirwa mentioned, or maintenance of such aircraft? Even the human resource in pilots, they are being forced to transport politicians up and about when they should be focusing on other duties.
Fred, my residence is on a flight path. I can tell you that I count choppers on Friday and Saturday and on Sunday.
Military choppers or otherwise?
Both. Military and civilian.
Civil.
I joined Honorable Waziri Pogiso in this matter. Whose resources are being used? It's our resources. And therefore, the misuse is there. We can turn a blind eye and say, okay, it makes the work easier. Something must be done to make sure that those things that are happening should come to an end. The other issue I would want to mention is what he mentioned about access to military, the air base itself. I know it has always been a coded area, not accessible, not to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but even to senior government officials. It looks like in this regime, there's a class of state officers that are not bound by any existing rules and regulations, and it is worrying. We read these things, you also read them, that somebody says, I want to take that one because they have the political power. If you have been a civil servant at one time, you know that the defense, military, police do not take kindly taking instructions from civilians. It's there. It is known, and that's why even the person who was put at the Nairobi Metropolitan
NMS.
General Bandi. He was put there, but they also considered that he would not pick instructions from a civilian. There are rules inside there that have lost meaning. That's what I'm trying to say. And until the probe comes out, I don't want to speculate, but I did mention that the reforms that the CDF wanted to do in the whole military setup could be, and I'm just saying could be, the trigger to whatever happened. We've got many ways of skinning a cat. And through the speculations that have been there in the social media, in the tributes, for the first time, I looked at the Minister of Defense yesterday as he was delivering his message, and I said, well, welcome to the world of truth. Because I did see that he contradicted the system. He did.
Okay.
And therefore, the probe is good because such statements in his hour of feeling that I must tell the truth, maybe he will have an opportunity to be called in that probe and say, what are those messages that you said he gave you to read? Maybe it is during that probe that we will come to know the reforms in the military. And then we can then question whether the other probes had talked about the equipment, had talked about the personnel, had talked about the procurement. We need to hear it.
Okay.
But the problem is what will be released to us and what will be left behind. We leave it at the word of the president that everything will be open.
There seems to be a lot of skepticism on whether or not we'll actually get the full details from a report on the current investigation, ongoing investigation into the crash. Time now for us to take a break. When we come back, we look at something else that also featured prominently throughout the weekend, and that's the ghosts of Bomas. Everyone kept talking about what happened at the Bomas of Kenya immediately after the election of August in 2022. And that has featured prominently throughout the last 3 days of national mourning. You're watching Morning Cafe. Time now for a break.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. I'm still in studio with the Honorable Dr. Mombingaru, Kipruto Rapkirwa, Philip Kisia, and Samuel Pugesio. We continue looking at some of the comments and some of the big discussion points coming from the last 3 days, the 3 days of official mourning. We've seen quite a number of events, from military events to the funeral service of the late Chief of Defence Forces, Francis Ogola, yesterday in Siaya. Now, I'll take you back to Saturday, when we had the military service at the Ulinzi Stadium here in Nairobi, which the president attended. And I got to see a copy of the speech prepared for the president. And you do realize that a huge part of what the president spoke about was not on his speech. He took a tangent and addressed other issues that appeared to have really weighed on his heart. And this is where the president revealed the conversation he had with the late CDF with regard to some issues that may have happened on the day of the election, August 9th, 2022. Now, this has continued. This discussion has continued, and there have been attempts to try and say what the general did, what he did not do at Bomas of Kenya. Bwana Kirwa, this conversation will definitely continue. The issue of what happened on August 9th or 10th at the Bomas of Kenya, that discussion appears to have reached fever pitch over the last 3 days.
Well, Fred, before I go there, allow me just to look at the resource use or misuse. And I will give you just one specific example. During the tree planting ceremony that took over the psyche and the thinking of Kenyans, I had a number of analyses. And when we were doing issues of communication and logistics, we were taught that there is a certain, what they call critical path analysis, that you can move from one place to the other within the shortest time possible and using the least amount of resources to achieve the same result. There was a minister who went to Homa Bay to plant trees, and the next planting of trees will be in Mombasa. Therefore, he had to take a chopper from Homa Bay, cross the country to Mombasa. Now, we have 22 ministers or 21, call it 22, because there are other people who are advisors at the level of ministers. It means if, let's say, I slept in West Pokot in the morning, in the evening, and I planted trees in West Pokot, I can move to Trans Nzoia and plant trees in the afternoon. And if each one of us does the same in that kind of rhythm, you don't need a single chopper. You can do it, and within no time you'll have done 44 counties. You'll be left with only 3 counties, which you can do even from Nairobi. You can sleep in Nairobi, plant a tree in Nairobi, then plant another one in Kiambu, and cross over to Nyandarua, and you will have completed the exercise. So they needed to improve the matrix. What am I trying to amplify? That wastage of resources is not a product of lack of them. It is a product of bad manners that is engineered by those people who just want to have a free ride. Why should you plant a tree in Meru, then you cross over all the way to Nyamira with the same chopper? Why didn't you sleep in Kisii, plant a tree in the morning in Kisii, then in the afternoon you plant in Nyamira, then you come back by road? Or even you can start with Nyamira, Kisii, on your way to Bomet, and you come back to Nairobi. So it is something that I feel the wastage of resources is not a product of urgency of time. It's a product of lack of planning, and it's a product of excitement of a new regime that I think they did not suspect they would win. When they won, now they are still rubbing it on us, that we won, you lost. Now, when it comes to issues of communication about bombers, the president, in his own wisdom, declassified information which is supposed to be a privileged information, because there are only 2 Kenyans there, him and the former CDF, who was still the deputy at that particular time. And according to his rhythm, there are only 3 things. Mambo ni matatu. Court-martial me, the other one is have me retire or forgive me. So it was in keeping it with the style of mambo ni matatu. So he looked as if he was annoyed by certain ghosts, starting with bombers and other considerations which were not informed by the reality of the day. From the community I come from, you do not allow yourself to talk about somebody who cannot rebut whatever you are saying or confirm whatever you are saying. That's why we say dead men tell no tales. And therefore the president, I do not want to say again, in his wisdom, in his adventure, decided to do the unthinkable, to declassify information that he was sharing with the Kenyan, not realizing he's at the level of the president. By the time he was talking to Francis Ogola, General Francis Ogola, he was the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces, and he was head of state
do you feel
and
that
head of government.
The kind of conversations that have been happening on social media from Thursday up until today, that they really got to the president and he was under some kind of pressure to try and dissuade that kind of speculation?
I watched his speech on Saturday, and I think it confirmed that he was under a lot of pressure from real and imagined detractors of his regime. And what he should have done is to realize that once you occupy what we call a public space, you expect yourself to be a subject of public opinion and public consideration. You cannot say you are in public life and you still want to maintain your private life. You will be fished out of that particular place. I remember one time when I was minister, I wanted to switch off everything. But then I went into my bedroom and I miserably switched on the TV, only for some guy to accuse me from South Nyanza about sugar issues. So immediately then the phone I had switched off, I called now the PS, what is happening? So when you are in that public space, don't expect to be private.
Okay.
You must accept that you are a subject of public scrutiny, you are a subject of a public discourse, and the public have a right to say anything about you.
But it's not easy even for the president. We saw the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta quit social media altogether because of the kind of things that were being said. Even for President Ruto, he may have, his speech, the one written down for him was, I think, a page long. But he went on and on about things that are not anywhere in the speech. He must definitely have gone through what was being written on social media. And he felt that pressure to actually answer back. Bwana Kisi.
Well, first of all, the president has all the necessary resources to be able to perform his duties. They include intelligence, they include the so-called advisors, and other public servants who enable him to perform. So he actually does not even need to waste his time on social media. Because even, in my own space, I don't even hold a public office. I rarely get into, I avoid going to social media.
But I see you very active on Twitter.
Yeah, if there's something, I am active on Twitter. But if there's something that, that must come to my attention, I have a few people who work with me. They normally bring these issues to my attention. And if there's need to act or react, I do. You see, I think my brother Kiro said that in the president's wisdom, I would say in the president's wisdom, or lack of wisdom, he uttered things that he should not have uttered. When you get to the level of a head of state, you are the symbol of national unity. You are the symbol of hope. Okay? So immediately you look shaken by anything, the whole country shakes. So how you appear and how you behave in public is a matter of public concern. So if I were the one advising the president, and if it's a president who listens, sometimes it is better to keep to the script that you've been given, because your officers, the intelligence, and people who work for you have already scanned the environment, and they know the type of message that needs to be released at what time. Remember, this was an extraordinary day or situation. So it is not the usual, market meetings where you can go and say anything. What you say at that moment sticks in the minds of people forever. Like right now, I can tell you without fear of any contradiction, that if there's something that has stuck in our minds from just a simple analysis, is that he did General Ogolla a favor, that he didn't merit. Because on one side, the president is saying that 10 names were brought to me. Ogolla's name was not on the list. How is that possible? Because if they followed the, I think it is Article 241, where the Kenya Defense Forces sit, and if they follow the Tonje rules, the protocols are very well defined. How do you arrive at a short list of the person who can ascend to whatever office at that level? So there was no, and if he's saying that 10 names were brought, the 10 names could only have been brought by the Defense Council. So are you saying that the Defense Council met without some people? Or who is this person who brought that list minus General Ogolla? He's raising, the more he speaks on this matter, he's raising more questions. One thing that I'm telling you that people will not forget, saying that, you know, and it's now playing on social media. And that's why it's important, and when you hold certain space, you're measured in what you say. He said that this General Ogola, they're one of the people who wanted to stop my victory. Yeah. Number one, you're already commander-in-chief. You cannot speak such or utter such things about your defense forces, particularly people at that very, very senior level. So, Fred, the president, I think, when you occupy that space, you should never allow yourself to be under pressure. Mm-hmm. Because you are not an ordinary citizen. And I keep on drawing reference to my president, Emilio Mwai Kibaki. It didn't matter what crisis Kibaki was in, but he was always calm, composed, yeah? And he would get brief. Waziri Kirwa, Waziri Pogisho, you know, he get briefs before saying anything. And he'll confine himself to what he has been given. And sometimes you don't have to speak. Who said you must speak on everything? I think we have a government where, like my colleagues have said, these are people who are still excited. And how can you be excited like a small little baby 2 years after you're starting into the office? You have another 2.5 years to go, and you're still excited? I think there's a serious problem in the way this government is communicating its policies and trying to communicate to the public. Okay. I think they need to be a little bit more organized. Or should I say, they need to reorganize the communications department. Okay. They seem to have very weak people who are not grounded, who are not experienced around the president.
Bwana Pogisho, do you agree that with Bwana Kisia that probably it was wrong for the president to reintroduce or introduce this kind of conversation? What happened at Bomas and the appointment of the CDF from that presidential podium and speaking as a commander-in-chief in front of the whole nation?
Well, as I said even earlier, that the president is the president. And by the time you reach the place where you're called the president of the Republic of Kenya, you are held to certain, I guess you're held to certain levels of communication. Your style of communication must change. The words you choose to say must reflect the nature of the office. And I think that's where people, when you become like just me or become like anybody else, and I tell tales about things which happen between me and another person, or even a process which is not public. The process of selecting a CDF is not a public thing. An ordinary Kenyan now seems to want to know how it is done, and probably now begins to edit it. It wasn't necessary in a way for us to know that. In any case, in any shortlisting, you know, that scares people, because it looks like then you put the person in charge of our full security and our military, and now you scare the rest of us. So was he not the right person? Was he not? And so why were we given that person? So I don't like the discourse, the way it's going, because I know the General Francis Ogola deserved to be where he was. He deserves the position. He represents the best. And that has come out now in death, after he has died. Everybody goes and says he represents the best. But in the position of mourning, when people are mourning, and people are actually not very happy, they're in a foul mood because of what happened. The things that are not necessary to mention should not be mentioned, because you're really just going to exacerbate a situation which already was pregnant with anticipation, with expectations, and then all those details were not necessary. Now, what is it that caused the president to reveal these things? What pressure was it, and where was it coming from? It wasn't in his speech, the written speech. So what is this welling and swelling of situation inside him that must produce this statement. And I'm sure everybody was left baffled. The speechwriters, the advisors, I'm sure everybody's left baffled, because I think it was probably advised that you don't say those things now here. There is probably another place that you can say those things. There was too much detail for me, and it's the same thing that I find later when you hear statements about defending the president on that. And you know, the president must be advised. Mm-hmm. And I really hope the people who are advising this president, our president, want the good for him, and not to be embarrassed, to bring embarrassment sometimes like this. So I do agree with my colleagues that maybe it wasn't necessary. And I think you look at the social media and look at even the media. I mean, everybody's wondering why that information was necessary at that particular time.
Okay. Yeah. And it will, even as you make your final comments, it will only serve to ensure this conversation continues. Matters to do with the last election. There have been agitation about revisiting what happened in Bomas, auditing the election, the way it was conducted. The president has always insisted it's time for us to move forward. Now we hear the same president taking us back to that day and saying these people did this to me. Then, and you mentioned this, his Minister for Defense comes and says something totally appearing to be almost contradictory. And the whole country is left wondering what exactly happened. Is this the most important conversation we should be having at this time? As you make your final comment.
Fred, it's unfortunate. And I agree with you. This conversation is going to go on, and probably there are details that we may not like, even as we check on the social media and other things, like what he spoke on Saturday, that there were people who were telling him, he said it, that this man. For a president to say that in public is a bit worrying, because we already can see the mess or bad manners, as they are being called, in the executive wing of the country. And therefore, those others that he talks to, he may not take their advice, but he confirmed they are there. Mm-hmm. That is worrying, because from where I sit, I see like they have influenced how he talks to people, what he releases to people, and so on and so forth. We are in a situation where if the president can be advised, I don't know, he needs to step back and speak to the written speech for the time being, as they reorganize his way of communicating to the public. We have a few issues, a few more of that kind that have happened. But this one is coming out because it was a mourning environment. And the pressure may not have necessarily been from the accident, but politically, for those of us who are observers, mm-hmm. that pressure was from somewhere else. It was the wrong time to talk about bombers, from where I sit. It was the wrong time. And for him to filter out information that he was having with his CDF, and I think that man was a brave, straightforward general. And he gave the president the 3 that we didn't know. He picked 3 from somebody else. Now we know the origin of 3.
Mamburi Matatu.
Matatu.
Okay.
And therefore, we must give this country hope that this country has still good people. We still hope for the best for this country. Okay. Even in the midst of this dark, confused, sometimes we look like we are headless. We know that in some miraculous way, we are going to have a way forward out of this darkness, because it is important that we have hope for this country.
Okay. Thank you. And as you speak for the next 1 minute or so, there's something also the president mentioned about the advice that Dr. Mubingaru talks about, that he was told not to be shy to appoint members of his community to that position. This is at a time when we're anticipating that a new CDF will be appointed. That in itself casts some serious aspersions on the kind of advice the president is receiving going forward now.
Yeah, you know, Fred, let me first of all celebrate Mumbi, because I like a positive attitude that there is still hope in Kenya. Not that I've given up, but I think it is useful that she is informing the rest of us that there is still hope in this country. But let me also advise my good brother, William Ruto, that if there are a number of things that he has done that has marveled me, one of which is, I thought, he was going to detribalize this country. Why do I say so? This is a man who, with the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, are able to bring 2 communities that 5 years previous, they were at different positions politically, but they were brought together and they voted together in 2013, and for the 2 to win the presidency was a milestone that I respected. He was also able to do something that was miraculous. Since independence, the community called the Kikuyu, they have never voted for anybody other than one of their own. But this time round, in 2022, the president was able to bring that community to vote for him against the wishes of their own son, Uhuru Kenyatta. And I thought that was a milestone. And I thought he is going also to rise above tribe. For him to say that in that particular day, it actually came slightly lower than my own estimation of his capacity and of his intellect. Okay. I would want also to advise him that to improve his communication. Remember the other day, he was tweeting about the issue between Iran and Israel. It's a point that is likely to create a problem for us. Even the candidacy of Prime Minister Raila Odinga can be polarized by that, because you see, in the world of politics, there are 2 major issues that create conflict. One is resources, and the other one is belief. Okay. So when you come to the world of belief, the Muslim-Christian dichotomy is a real problem. Okay. The French Anglophone and the Francophone is a real problem. So by him doing that, he was unraveling the Muslims throughout Africa. And when you combine Muslims and the Francophone, you are creating more than half of the continent of Africa. Okay. And Raila needs only 2/3 to be able to be confirmed.
And unfortunately, I'm being told we are really out of time, so 60 seconds.
Okay, I'll be very fast.
I'm sorry.
First of all, thank you. I think the only truth that was spoken during the burial of the General Ogola was that he was a good man. The rest was lies, total lies. Then, of course, the other thing that I would want to request the president, we have the Tonje rules, but can these Tonje rules be actually converted into an act of parliament, so that we don't give leeway for people who come after him or him, to bring in politics within the military fraternity. Then he talked about appointments, and which my brother has talked about. I thought his appointments are based on merit. But he mentioned something in his speech. He said that when he took over, he was told that there are these key positions that must be held by his tribe. Who are those people who are advising would want to know? Because I thought those positions, they are very strategic, but merit should always precede the issue of tribe. Finally, I just join the others in requesting that the government ensures that the investigations are thorough, and they should open up that investigation to other agencies. Let me request my brother, as he makes a closing remark, to pray for the families of the departed, the 9 officers of lost. Thank you.
10. Gebola says your turn now.
10, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And for me, it is easy to say that we have been here talking and advising. We have really advised the government and the president. He takes what he wants to take from us, and he leaves out what he wants. I don't know whether the matter of prayer is accepted.
Of course, you can mention a short prayer.
But I'd like really to commit. I just want to pray to God that the families that have lost loved ones, not only the ones that we have mentioned, but the many Kenyans who continue to lose lives, even on road accidents, which have happened, so many. But particularly, we want to commit those military people to God. May God comfort the families. May God provide a strength to the survivors, and may God just keep us away from these things in this country. And we've been a God-fearing country, and we commit this in His name. Amen.
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 Amen. And on that note, thank you so much, Samuel Pugisio, former ICT minister, Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert, and also former town clerk Nairobi, Kipruto Rapkirwa, former agriculture minister, and Honorable Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly. Our power panel every Monday, and this Monday we've just been focusing on the big news that the country has been focusing on for over the last 3 days, and that's the tragedy that happened on Thursday and everything else that has happened over the last 3 days. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time here. Now, last Thursday's chopper crash in Sindar at the border of West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet that claimed the lives of 10 military officers, including the Chief of Defense Forces, Francis Ogola, definitely raises serious concerns over the safety of military aircraft. The concerns arise from the many instances over the past few years where military choppers have come crashing down, claiming the lives of officers. Several such incidents have occurred in recent times. On November 20th last year, a military helicopter on a relief food supply mission crashed during takeoff in Buna, Wajir North. Earlier that same month, 2 KDF pilots were hospitalized after their chopper crashed in Kisamis, Kajiado West. In July, the same year, a military chopper crashed at Chemolingot Stadium in Baringo County. While in June 2021, only 2 years earlier, another chopper on a routine training mission crashed in Kajiado, resulting in the death of at least 10 KDF officers. While investigations into these accidents are always conducted, the findings from such probes are never made public, probably due to the nature of military work. Chances are that even in this latest incident, while so devastatingly tragic, we may never get to know what really happened to that ill-fated chopper. But while the military reserves the right to control the kind of information flow to the public, Kenyans too deserve reassurance on the safety and integrity of the aircraft used by the people tasked with securing our borders. It is worrying that the same unit charged with transporting the president, who is also the commander-in-chief, can have such a questionable safety record. As investigations get underway, we call on the authorities to expedite the process. We commend the president's commitment to make the investigation report public and hope he will live up to that promise. Once again, we condole with the families of all officers who lost their lives in this tragedy. May their souls rest in eternal peace. That is our editorial comment this morning.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Right, and as they always say, kuchafua meza, and that is what we're doing today, right here on Marvelous Monday. Very good morning to you. My name is Stanley Nyerungita. It's a Monday discussing matters health and what you need to know on health. Our conversation today is matters diet, and specifically for cancer patients. You're either cancer patient, you're either in remission, and you really probably have had this conversation with your oncologist, or maybe not. What has the oncologist told you on this? And that is what we're going to be discussing today with the nutritionist, Rose John. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Asante sana for kutuchafulia meza.
Asante.
With the table looks wonderful, and you'll be telling us what we have right here. And you can always be part of this conversation as we continue for the next 1 hour. In case you have any questions, you're always allowed to call in live. 0795 045 864 is the number to call in live. Throw in all those questions that you have, in case you have had your own experience, in case you've used a couple of this and you feel like this works for me. Also tell us your opinions and your thoughts as well. Number 2047 is our SMS number, at TV47KE on Facebook. Rose John, I'll let you, introduce yourself first before you also tell us what are we looking at here? Yeah.
I'm Dr. Rose John. I'm a naturopathic nutritionist, whereby I talk about preventive measures than curing the disease. We say prevention is better than curing. So I've been practicing, this is my 20th year, helping people to reverse diseases using natural or food to reverse every kind of a disease. Yeah.
Right. So before tuingie uliniambia nishikilie hii, and back at home they might probably be thinking this is it's probably mango juice, it probably what else?
Okay,
like this? Tell us what is this yellow liquid?
Okay, this is soup, butter coconut soup. Most of the people, they wonder, they think that you can only take soup from maybe bones, but we can make vegetable soup, because of most of the time cancer patients, they don't have energy to digest food. So most of the time we process their food through blending or extracting juice, so that the body can use the energy to reverse disease. So it is like pre-digested. So this is soup made of butternut. We have butternut here, very high in beta-carotene.
Okay.
You remember beta-carotene, the body will convert it into vitamin A, which is very, very effective in reversing things like wounds. So it's good it's high in anti-inflammatory, where it will reverse cancer. So this soup entails also capsicum. We have red, yellow, and red capsicum. I have put also the green one.
Right.
We have the green one here in combination in this soup. I have done tomatoes, I have done onions. So I have mixed different kind of colors, because when I talk about mixing different kind of colors, because they have different phytochemicals that helps the body to reverse diseases. So our soup here is coconut. We have the coconut milk. Maybe they will ask which type of coconut.
Okay.
You can put the whole coconut by you grate, and you can use the coconut milk. You can buy them from supermarket. This is coconut milk. So I have put it here in this soup. So if you can taste the soup, and then I have spiced with garlic, a lot of onions, and a lot of what we call ginger. And also,
kuna kaukali kumbali.
Yeah, we have cayenne pepper. I have put cayenne pepper. One. Cayenne pepper is there. So that food helps the body holistically. I check the body holistically. When you talk about cancer, why do we have cancer? And especially when we are aging, that is when we have cancer. Even though today, cancer, we are starting it from the womb.
Oh, yes.
Because of the diet that people are taking. So our body are created naturally with a defensive mechanism. We have defensive mechanism. We have 5 of them. I talk about how to reverse diseases from the cellular level. In the cellular level, that is where we have body defensive mechanism. We have microbiome, that is the gut, the bacteria in your gut. We have DNA. When we open up the cell, inside the cells, there is nucleus, and inside the nucleus, we have the DNA. So DNA is one of the body defensive mechanisms, and especially it helps us to reverse cancer and even to fight cancer cells before they become disease. So you can have cancer cells which wants to mutate, but the DNA, because it is strong enough, it is able to reverse it without your knowledge. So it can work and reverse the cancer. We say having cancer cells without a disease. So most of the people we have, all of us, we have cancer cells, but it is not diseased.
So it has not been activated?
It's not been activated.
So what kind of foods do we normally and usually eat in our lifestyle that really activate some of this? And what kind of behaviors do we do?
When we are in school, we're talking about telomeres. Telomeres is the end of the DNA where it protects your DNA from being damaged. So our teacher was telling us, the longer the telomeres, the longer your shelf life. So what activates the telomeres so that they can protect your DNA is purple-colored food. So when we talk about purple-colored food, if they can bring the camera, we see we have the onions, we have the beetroot, we have the red cabbage. This is very effective. It helps the body to prolong life. We say food that prolong life, they have catechins, they have anthocyanins, they have bioflavonoids. Those are chemical compounds. For example, when we are treating cancer using chemotherapy and radiation, we look at the angiogenesis part of the body, whereby the angiogenesis, we look at anti-angiogenesis inhibitors, whereby we can suppress the blood vessels not to take nutrients to the mutation of the cells. So because the cancer cells, they hijack the blood vessels. So when they hijack the blood vessels, they start growing. And when the blood vessels start growing, they feed the cancer cells. The bigger it is, the more the blood vessels. So when we go to oncologists, they try to suppress, or they try to cut that flow of blood to the tumor, so that the tumor could shrink and reverse the problem. But now, can we have foods that are anti-angiogenic inhibitors, that have these inhibitors than chemicals alone? When I talk to my patient, I tell them, you can use food as medicine. Whatever you eat today, it will help the body to reverse disease. It will help the body defensive mechanism to reverse disease. We have the stem cells. We have what we call immune system. Most of the people, they talk about immune system, and they think it's only the only way the body defends itself. So when we were born with these things to help our body to live without diseases. You know, people have lived with the diseases and it has become normal. It's normal to have cancer. It is normal to have diabetes. It is normal to have high blood pressure. It is normal to have tumor. It is normal to have asthma. It's normal to have allergy. But that's not normal, because there is imbalance in your system caused by your lifestyle.
And all this is factored in all the kind of cancers that we know.
Yes.
And also, as you also answer that, are there specific, for example, someone has, let's say, stomach cancer. Are you advising them to, go wholesomely on all this, the kind of smoothies that we have, the salads, and all that, or they need a specific kind of diet on their plate?
Most of the time when we have colon cancer, what activates colon cancer is lack of fiber, whereby waste is not moving. It is stagnant in your descending colon. That is why we get colon cancer. So why is this waste not moving? It's because of fiber. Which foods does it contain fiber? We have pomegranate with the seeds. It's very high in fiber. We have cabbage. It's very high. Or all cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables is white cabbage, red cabbage, cucumbers. We have celery. It's very high in fiber. We have lettuce. We have iceberg lettuce. We have different types of lettuce. So this is iceberg lettuce. So when you lack fiber in your food, and most of the people who have colon cancer, they dine a lot on meat. Yes, they eat a lot of flesh. I call it flesh. They eat a lot of flesh. And flesh doesn't contain fiber. So what happens? It putrefies because it stays for a long period of time in your colon. So the byproduct, it will create a lot of acid, and a lot of acid in the system, it imbalances the chemistry of the blood, and that's where cancer cells, they start mutating. Yeah. So
that's for now an example of, let's say, the colon cancer.
Yes.
Right.
So we incorporate more food that has fiber. With prostate cancer, men get the prostate cancer. There's one patient who came and asked me whether I can get prostate cancer, and she was a lady. Lady they don't get prostate cancer, but men, they get prostate cancer, and especially as they age. Why? Because most of the time when we are youthful, we don't check on what we eat. We eat anything, anytime, anywhere.
As long as
the stomach is full, you're okay to go. So for a long period of time, you get deficiency. When you get deficiency, you get deficiency of nutrients. When you get deficiency of nutrients, the body defensive mechanism, they compromise. So when they compromise, the cells will start mutating from nowhere. So the best food when person have prostate cancer is lycopene, foods that contain lycopene or concentrated with lycopene. The first thing is like this soup. This soup is concentrated with lycopene, with butternut, coconut, tomatoes, red capsicum. Lycopene is in red products.
Right.
The chemical compound that makes this tomato to be red, that is what we call lycopene. The chemical compound that makes pomegranate to be red, that is the lycopene. And also in capsicum, we see it is red. So that one, if you have prostate cancer, we concentrate in extracting lycopene from food. Your body will do it.
Okay.
Yes, your body will do it naturally. What it doesn't want, it will remove it out. But what it needs to nourish the system, it will use it to nourish the cells.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, because we are still talking about colors, so that's a red color.
This red color.
On your side is a green color. Songa nyuma kidogo, now we see the green color. And the green color is also synonymous in our homes. You'd oftenly see the green color, kama ni sukuma wiki, the green cucumbers and all that. They're so synonymous. How important is that? Even as we also talk about, you started with the purple color, just telling us even someone has colon cancer, how effective that is. Now for the green color, tell us about that.
The green color in our homes, it's when it's from the market. But when we cook, it changes into brown color.
Yeah.
So we kill everything. The chlorophyll, the green coloring matter, that is what your cells need. And especially when you have leukemia, the blood cancer. You see? So when you have leukemia, the green coloring matter, it boosts your immunity, it brings your immunity up, it stimulates your stem cells, and especially plus the purple color. They also helps in stimulating the stem cells. So when person come into my clinic with leukemia, any type of leukemia, I nourish or I pamper that patient with green colors. And we have green tea. Even though it's not that green, we have catechins in green tea. So catechins in green tea, you see, the way we take a plant and take it to a lab, and we extract this herb, we get chemicals that we convert it into drugs. The same thing we do to food. We don't just say food is medicine. No, we take food, we take it to the lab, we check the medicinal compound in that food. So green color is highly anti-inflammatory because it is high in fiber, it is high in what we call bioflavonoids. Green color is high in what we call vitamin B12, like in broccoli. Broccoli is highly concentrated with bioflavonoids, whereby it helps to reverse cancer of the breast. When somebody has cancer of the breast, it's very, very effective to use broccoli soup. Most of the time I talk, when you have cancer, give your body time to heal. Don't concentrate your energy in digestion. So what you do, you blend. You extract juice, you do smoothies, you do also things like salad, because raw food is highly digested by the body than cooked food because it's acidic. And
now that you mentioned that, Njau on 22047, our SMS numbers, was just asking that because she had heard you talk about this smoothie here and saying the butternut
that
as well
soup.
As, yes, the soup basically. Yes. And when she was asking why, can I just eat the butternut as is, will it be effective?
Okay. How much butternut can you take? That's what I say. How much? If I put this one in your plate, how much can you take? You won't take all of it because it's too much for you. But when I blend, it will be concentrated, but the measurement will be comfortable to take. So that is what I say, blend your food so that you can have concentrated vitamins and a lot of vitamins. You can nourish the system for a long period of time. For example, when somebody comes to my office, they ask me, Daktari, how much juice can I take in a day when I have cancer? I have been taking a glass of juice. That one will not do anything to your body. So I tell them, when you start juicing or taking soup, you are supposed to take a whole liter of soup per day. You are supposed to take 8 to 12 glasses of smoothie or 8 to 12 glasses of juice in a day. That is hyper-nourishing your cells. The nutrients will go to the cellular level. There is what we call vitamins toxicity. Most of the people, they talk about vitamins toxicity. There was a time I did carrot. It's very high in beta-carotene. I did a lot of juice.
Okay.
So people could think that I have bleached my skin because the beta-carotene was seen on top of my skin. So I only said, but Dr. I may bleach. So that means the carrots have get into my cellular level. So when I stopped taking, my skin got back to normal. So when I talk about cancer, you have extreme deficiency of nutrients.
So that amount of the soup, the smoothie, the salads that you'd advise is equivalent for all cancers that you're telling us? Or there are some that you'd advise will take a lower portion, and there are others that would need a higher portion.
Yeah, there are some people who will come and they have been doing greens. They have been juicing their greens properly, but they have not been juicing yellow color or purple color or white color. They have not been juicing that. So I'll tell them to add either purple, either green, either yellow in their smoothies, in their soup, or in their juice. So it depends what type of cancer do you have, and the severity also of cancer, and the advance of side effect of chemotherapy and radiation. Because I say when you're doing chemotherapy and radiation, that is fine, but that is not enough. Chemotherapy and radiation, the research has shown that it is helping 20% of the patients, but 80% they succumb. Why do they succumb? Because they have deficiency of nutrients. The body defensive mechanism is down. Why? Because of body toxicity and deficiency. And not only deficiency, when you have cancer, the body is robbed of nutrients. That is where the body defensive mechanism cannot fight anymore. So it compromises. So what do? We don't give only vegetables. There are some people, I'll advise them to do spices. Spices like we have garlic there.
Oh yes, the couple of here.
Yeah, we have garlic.
Just mention them. So do have.
We have turmeric
here.
We have turmeric. Turmeric is there. Yes, we have turmeric there.
So here's turmeric.
Yes, we have cumin.
So
cumin is
cumin.
there. Also, we have hibiscus.
Okay.
Or hibiscus is there. Hibiscus is very high in polyphenols, which is chemical compound that helps to reverse cancer. We have cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper will warm your blood, you know. Cayenne pepper is very high in vitamin A and vitamin C. So cayenne pepper helps to heal wounds.
Right.
So when you're subjected to chemotherapy and you have open wounds, you need to eat cayenne pepper because cayenne pepper will stimulate the stem cells and it will come out and help that wound to heal. Because the work of stem cells, if you have a scratch, it will bring back the skin. That is the work of stem cells. The work of stem cells is when you have what we call cancer of the liver. I will advocate for somebody who has cancer of the liver to do a lot of green tea because green tea will stimulate the stem cells. I'll tell somebody to do what we call the cauliflowers, the broccolis. I think we have the cauliflower here in white color. Even if it is white, it's highly concentrated with anti-inflammatory and phytochemicals and phytonutrients that helps the body to reverse any type of cancer, even if it is in stage 4. So when you have liver cancer, we administer something that will stimulate your stem cells to help the liver to regenerate. The scientists were telling us the body cannot regenerate. Today, they say that the body regenerates, you know. So how does the body regenerate? If cancer have eaten your liver from this size to this size, when you eat the right diet with the right chemicals, it will help the liver to go back to this size. That is what we call regeneration. So if the doctor have removed part of your liver because of cancer cells, if you eat the right diet, the liver will regenerate again.
And one of the biggest questions that you'd probably get is, but then for how long? Because the oncologist will tell this patient that you'd be having your chemotherapy for this period of months. But then, so what's the advice for this patient, for example, to be taking, let's say, to adding the turmeric and, you know, just all other, for example, our soup today, for what period of time?
we say patience pays. And with natural or healthy foods, it takes time, because one thing, you have been abusing your body for 10 years, 20 years. Because when you feel you have a lump in your breast, it didn't come yesterday or the other day. It has been there working slowly, systematically. So if it was the size of the mustard seed or the size of chia seed, it has grown now, it is the size of cauliflower. So that's when you are starting to feel it, that you have a tumor, you have a growth in your stomach, you have something that cannot let food to go in along your esophagus. So that thing did not grow overnight. So I say this, you should be patient enough with natural treatment on how to help the body to reverse diseases. Cancer, even if it is stage 4, you need to go for 2 years. But after 3 years, after 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, the cancer will start shrinking. So when we do test, we see that you are improving.
So
but
2 years of continuous
this
uptake
process
of all this.
Exactly, continuous process. Because I say, purple color have different chemical compound with the beta carotene, which is yellow color in lemons, in yellow capsicum, oranges, butternut, pumpkin, that is yellow color. We have red color. It has chemical compound, different chemical compounds. So the body is a hardwired thing. We don't target one system. We don't target one organ. No, we target the body holistically. So when the immune system has started to compromise, it has compromised from the cellular level. The body is made up of cells. That is when you do surgery and remove this breast, after remission period, after 3 years, you have
to the next
breast. Then after they remove, it will go to the lungs. Where will they remove? When it go to the lungs, it will go to the liver, to the spleen, and then the patient is miserable.
And one of the biggest challenges that even oncologists would say is this patient came in when they're probably at stage 4 of whatever cancer. Now, in this case of the dietary kind of treatment, does it also alter how all this, because as much as you're telling us, the whole 2 years, but then someone watching us this morning, they probably wondering, I am, at stage 4 of, let's say, esophageal cancer. Will this really be the silver bullet that I'm looking for? The oncologist has told me, we'll try the chemotherapy, maybe haija work, but then, so are you probably telling them this is what, after the 2 years of continuous, is this what could really work for someone who is even at the later stage of cancer?
Okay, we say you are what you eat. The body is made up of what you eat. And every bite you take, you are either feeding diseases or fighting diseases. So you have been eating the wrong diet for a period of time. So the body is heavily overloaded with the toxins in your system because you have been eating food food that doesn't have vitamins and minerals to keep you going, to keep your body defensive mechanism at spark. So when you go to an oncologist, they know nothing about diet. So you will ask them, in the 7 years they train, they only taught about diet 1 month or 2 months. And they can prove this. They don't talk about diet, reversing cancer with diet. They don't talk about that. So that's where we are there as nutritionists. So when you're doing your chemo, I don't say don't do your chemo. Even I advise my patient, here we have to do chemo. Here we have to do radiation. But that is not enough. We need to open up the elimination channels of the system.
Should we also allow even the oncologists who are watching us to also call in live and tell us their take? Do they also advise their patients or the same?
Okay, what they say.
And just to tell oncologists, watching us this morning, Rosjon says, well, oncologists just, you don't really, factor in the nutrition bit. Do you really do, oncologist? Tuambie, 0795-045-864 is the number to call us live. Itakuwa pale chini kwa screen, 0795-045-864. And also, if you're a cancer patient, you know someone who is whichever kind of cancer, and you've never known all this. You've really been looking for the tips on how to do the whole dietary bits, and you have quite a number of questions. Throw them in. Rosjon will be answering them for you. So yes, so you're saying you feel like oncologists don't really do.
It's okay. Yeah. What they do, they tell patients take everything in moderation.
Okay.
So can you take poison in moderation? It's impossible. Remember, this is a body which is fighting with life. The body is fighting within itself. It's trying to save you not to die. Even cells, they don't want to die.
So allow me to ask you this. So for the 2 years, and this should be, a question, a number of people would really have right now. So at this point, let's say a theoretical of you're telling us, let's say someone who has colon cancer and they're at stage 4, and you're advising them to, have the diet, to have the, purple, meals there. The smoothies, the soup, really have purple color in them for a huge bit. And it's for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Mtu amezoea lifestyle ya nyama choma hapa nini. Are you telling them to cut back completely all that? Drinking, let's say, alcohol or probably meat, the nyama choma, and any other kind of lifestyle they had?
95% of diseases are reversible. 95% are reversible. 5% are manageable. Not all patients are cured. You see? Diseases, I have said 95% is reversible, but not all patients are cured because they don't want to follow the process to reverse the disease. As a doctor, what can I do? So I have advised you, go take lemon, go take ginger, go take turmeric, go take cloves, go take nutmeg, go do this. You need to detox the body, you need to do this, you need to drink water, you need to get enough rest. You need to trust in God because your God is bigger than cancer. That's what we say. Oh, yes. So you need to trust in God. So you need to have spiritually connected with your God. So if you don't do those things, as a doctor, I can do nothing for you. So we say 10% is what we do to our patient, but 90% the patient has to do them, him or herself. You have to do it for you to reverse the disease because 100% of the disease, you are the one who have caused it by a wrong lifestyle. So eating the wrong diet. So why do we advocate plant-based food? Plant-based food, it's not dead food. The body is fighting with life. So most of the processed food, most of the packaged food, most of the bottled food, most of the ultra-processed food, they are dead. They don't have nutrients that will help the body to reverse the disease. That is why we advocate plant-based. Because when you take your tomatoes and you cook them, like when you cook tomatoes, the lycopene in tomatoes, it triples than when it is raw. Right. So when you have prostate cancer, we say make tomato soup. Use your olive oil, make tomato soup, add capsicum, the hohos, red and yellow and green hohos. Right. Put some vegetables in your soup or some beans. We have beans here, types of beans and legumes. So if you boil your legumes and beans and you pan fry them correctly, then you make your soup. So when you're eating, you can pour your soup on top of your beans or eat as you drink your soup. That is highly nutritious and you'll nourish your system with phytonutrients. So we advocate on raw food or plant-based food because they are full of life. So, and because you are fighting with life from your cellular level, that is why we take 2 years, because we have to go deep inside your cells. So when we get inside your cell, that's where we get the DNA. We help the DNA to fight the cancer cells. We concentrate a lot of anti-inflammatory. We concentrate a lot of catechins, we concentrate a lot of bioflavonoids, we concentrate a lot of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D. So when we are talking about vitamins, minerals, and the rest, antioxidants, we first look at the chemical compound. What is chemical compound in a cucumber? What is chemical compound in an onion? We have a lot of quercetin in an onion. Quercetin is very good with lung cancer. We have what we call grapes. The grapes, or yes, the purple, the purple grapes or the red grapes. They are concentrators also in antioxidants. They are very high anti-inflammatory, so they are good with lung cancer. Even when you look at the grapes, they look like the lungs. So when we have a patient with cancer of the lungs, we extract juice from the grapes, and from the lemon. Either ash gourd or bottle gourd. This they have to take every morning. Before they take anything, they have to take every morning. So this, because they are full of antioxidant, they will help the body to shrink the tumor from the lungs. When you take every morning, grape, lemon, ash gourd, or cucumber juice, you mix together, you take a glass every morning. That's what it will help a lot. And not also that, it will help to open your lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is the sewerage system of the body. So where the cells, they pour toxins. So it will help to open up the lymphatic system so that the cells can rejuvenate. The cells can swim. I give analogy of a fish. You have a fish in a pond, and this fish is sick because of contaminated water within. So you cannot remove the fish and you give antibiotics and then you return it to the same contaminated water, it will just resist for a period of time and then it will go back again. That is why we talk about cleansing the pod. You remove the dirty water, you put the right water, and then it will make the fish to come back to normal.
Fantastic. Allow me to take a look at some 2 questions here for you. 22047 is our SMS number. But even before I do that, let me take this call. Hello TV47, ni Francis aba.
Yes.
Francis kutoka Eldoret. Habari asubuhi.
Salama, labda yako.
Yetu hapo iko salama, tuambie.
Yeah, nilikuwa nauliza daktari anaweza ako na pengine jinsi ameorodhesha hizo vyakula kwa mtu ambaye ako na throat cancer. Niko na mamangu ako na throat cancer. Na nimeona hiyo mafundisho yake ni ya maana, inaweza msaidia ikiwa anaweza kutupea jinsi ambavyo tutafuatilia chakula hizo, tutatengenezea chakula kama hizo ambazo anafundisha.
Aha, sawa. Ukuna swali lingine ama ni yote?
Nafikiri swali ambayo nafikiri inaweza kusaidia tu kwa mtu ambaye basi pengine achafila mgonjwa, ajasikia mgonjwa ni anaweza kula chakula kwa njia gani ambayo anaweza chunga tu mwili yake ku prevent magonjwa kama hizo, kwa sababu kansa hata imeogopesha sana kuliko magonjwa mengine.
Ukweli. Asante sana Francis kutoka Eldoret. Ombea mamako quick recovery, and asante sana for calling us this morning. Oh yes, remember you can call in live all those questions that you have in case you know someone who has cancer, any type of cancer. In case you also have cancer, whichever kind of stage, you can throw in all those questions that you have. Rosjan will be answering them for you. Ama kama kuna maoni or some suggestions that for you as well. Maybe it is a professional as well, and he or she is just telling you, Rosjan, jaribu na hii. But anyway, to Francis' question. Yes.
Okay, I think he is asking about the recipes, whether I have recipes for patients with cancer. Yes,
throat cancer.
Yes. Any type of cancer, I have the recipes.
So, but then now, specifically for Francis,
the issue with the throat cancer, if the patient cannot swallow anything, because sometimes the tumor is big and the food cannot pass either water, the patient has to be operated. You need to go for surgery so that you can remove that tumor. But after that now, when in this healing process, that is when we pump the body with the right food. So that's where now I get in. So when the patient comes to me and tell me that I cannot eat anything, I'm vomiting, you need to go to the hospital. We manage that issue that you have. Then after that, if you can now take soup like this and it will stay in your system, it will definitely work. So with throat cancer, most of the time, they vomit, they get nauseated, they get dizzy. So when they have those kind of symptoms, we have to go to an oncologist to manage the symptoms, then we come back to diet. Yeah.
Right. So even as we wrap it up, any kind of suggestion that you'd probably have, advice to a couple of questions that we've had here.
Now, like somebody with if we want to prevent cancer, or you are on treatment, or you are on remission. Remission means the doctor have checked on you and have seen that the cancer cells are not active any longer. They give you 5 years to see whether the symptoms will come back, and you can go back to your normal errors. So that is remission period. And most of the time, that is where the bomb is. When people are on remission, they don't check their diet. Because anakuambia, daktari sema nimepona, sasa mimi nakula everything. And it's like now they are revenging where they were not eating.
Right.
now they are doing the wrong food in bigger portions.
Okay.
So after the remission period, the cancer is in stage 4. Then they are like, I was told I was healed, but now it is back. So what I say, incorporate seeds, incorporate fruits, incorporate vegetables, incorporate spices in your diet, and do more of plant-based milk, like the coconut milk, the almond milk, the oat milk, because they are better than animal-based milk.
Asante sana.
Yes.
John, a nutritionist, just giving us all these tips. You probably written them down, and we'll probably use them. This conversation continues online. What do you really prefer on the same? It's a Monday, even getting away from matters of health. We'll also discuss first aid. That will definitely be coming your way. Just getting to understand if you have a heart attack, some seizures, and as well as nose bleeding. What do you do on that? We'll be having someone from the Kenya Red Cross Training Institute just right here, just giving us those tips. This is a Morning Cafe. Stick around.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.